Alright, so we have the Saturn Convention, the Kronos Assembly, and we're also going to go over the Uranus Convention, the Promethean Revolt, the Outer Planets Convention, the Transpersonal Conclaves, and then in my next videos we're going to go over the 3 pillars of the Astral Congress. We went through the first pillar, the second pillar, third pillar, and then in another video we're going to do the Annual Cosmic Brief and Secrecy in Society, the Grand Managed Revelation. So, starting with our conventions again, picking up where we left off. So, Saturn, the architecture of time, limits, legacy, and discipline of becoming. Venue is the Krypton, a somber, magnificent station embedded in the methane ice cliffs of Titan Xanadu region. With telescopic arrays perpetually trained on Saturn's rings, location is deliberate. Titan, a world of slow hydrocarbon cycles under the watchful eye of the ringed planet. Atmosphere is thick, silence is profound, light is dim. This is where one goes to study the weight of existence. So, the Saturnine lens. Why Saturn? Saturn is the principle of negation that creates form. It's the cosmic architect, the law of consequences, slow grind of time that sculpts mountains and civilizations alike. The astrological archetype of the teacher, the judge, the architect, the reaper, and the hermit. The physical reality, it's a gas giant defined by its spectacular rings, celestial model of boundaries, order, and fragile stability. Its density is so low it could float on water. Paradox of immense size and gravitational power coupled with essential hollowness. Assembly's core meditation, what is the necessary structure? The ring that must exist to prevent a life, a society, or a soul from dissipating into chaos, and what price does maintaining that structure demand? Let's look at the Krypton Convention architecture. So the station is a masterpiece of austere functional geometry built to withstand eons. Feels less like a habitat and more like a library or a tribunal. So we have the foundation level. It's carved directly into Titan's ice bedrock, houses life support. The chronometric core, atomic clock synced to Saturn's orbital period. The archive of limits, a database of every failed colony, collapsed empire, and extinct species, studied not as tragedy but as data on structural failure points. We have the ring hall, and that is the central chamber. Its curved wall is a single seamless viewport framing Saturn and its rings. The rings are not just a view, they have the central teaching tool, a holographic interface allowing delegates to manipulate virtual ring particle dynamics to model social, economic, and psychological systems. Let's look at our 3 atria. Atrium of bone structure examines physical, societal skeletons, laws, skeletons, frameworks, traditions. Atrium of shadows, consequence, studies karma, cause and effect, delayed results, and the unseen weights of decisions. Atrium of patina, times art, focuses on aging, wisdom, mastery, and the beauty that emerges only through long disciplined practice. Our core research themes and experiments, the ring particle dynamics of society, is our hypothesis, and our experiment. So our hypothesis is Saturn's rings are a perfect analog for any complex system. Particles, individuals, ideas, resources are bound by clear, simple gravitational laws. Saturn's mass equals core principles, yet produce staggering complexity. Excuse me. So here's the experiment. It's shepherding a resonance. Delegates use the ring model to simulate a societal problem. They must place virtual shepherd moons, policies, taboos, incentives to clear a gap like the Cassini division or create a new stable ring. Lesson is direct. Too little structure and the system scatters. Too much shepherding and you shatter it. Precision is everything. We have the Titan crucible. So Saturn's time perception is extreme. 1 orbit equals 29.5 Earth years, the approximate span of a Saturn return. Experiment. Delegates enter isolated pods where environmental cues are stripped away and they are subjected to temporal dissonance therapy. Clocks run at erratic slow paces. They must complete complex tasks based only on internal discipline and their own untethered sense of duration. The goal is to experience the psychological weight of being the sole author of one's own structure in the void. The hexagon protocol. Saturn's North Pole boasts a perfect, persistent hexagonal cloud pattern, a geometric anomaly of stunning stability. Here's our workshop. Finding your hexagon. Using fluid dynamic simulations and group analysis, delegates explore what unconscious rigid psychological or institutional patterns they maintain that provide stability, but may also lock them into a fixed, if elegant, shape. The question is, your hexagon a fortress or prison? The disciplines of Chronos rituals. So, we have the vow of limitation and the Saturn return simulation. So, the vow of limitation, upon arrival, each delegate must choose one significant personal freedom to surrender for the duration of the assembly. For example, speech, preferred food, contact with loved ones, use of their dominant hand. This is not penance, but a conscious enactment of Saturn's law. Growth occurs at the boundary of constraint. In the Saturn return simulation and a deeply immersive VR archive, delegates relive key decision points from their lives, but with a crucial twist. They experience the full cascading consequences of their choices, both positive and negative, accelerated over a simulated 29-year cycle. It's a brutal, revered exercise in accepting ownership of one's architectural blueprint. You have the ring mending ceremony, a silent group meditation focused on a single broken relationship or failed project from each delegate's past. The goal is not to fix it, but to see its structure clearly, to identify the missing shepherd moon, the weak resonance, the moment the particle drifted beyond gravity's helpful grasp. This yields a blueprint for future integrity. Our key findings and Earth application for 2034. Chronos Assembly produces Saturnine edicts, a document of sobering crystalline clarity. Our prediction: an impending syzygy of Saturn with the galactic plane would trigger a great reckoning across Earth's systems. This would manifest not as a sudden catastrophe, but as the accelerated collapse of structures that have been decaying in slow motion for decades. Ponzi scheme economies, corrupt institutions, and neglected infrastructure. It would be a harvest of long-planted seeds. Here's the recommended action. The creation of Saturnine thresholds. Legally and culturally recognized points of no return for major systems. When a debt to GDP ratio, an aquifer depletion level, or an institutional trust index crosses a Saturnine threshold, it triggers not panic, but a pre-planned and graceful managed contraction and restructuring overseen by non-partisan architect generals. The goal is to replace chaotic collapse with disciplined transformation. Here's our cultural ripple. The assembly inspired a minimalist, endurance-based art and philosophy movement called patina. Value the beauty of worn tools, repaired objects, and skills mastered over decades. A new societal respect emerged for the master in any field, seen not as an authoritarian, but as a living library of time-earned structural knowledge. All right. The unasked question. In the long, tight night, facing the silent ring sentinel in the sky, the oldest delegate, a historian of dead languages, posed the final chilling question. Saturn devoured his children, fearing they would surpass him. His rings are the beautiful shadow remains of what he could not assimilate. So is the ultimate truth of Saturn this, that all structure, no matter how wise, eventually becomes a jealous, consuming god, that the very laws we build to ensure our survival will, given enough time, seek to consume our future to preserve themselves. And if so, is the final duty of the wise architect not to build eternally, but to design the graceful demolition of their own masterpiece? This question of structural senescence and necessary revolution created a charged, anticipatory silence, perfectly setting the stage for the next convention on Uranus, the planet of shattering breakthroughs and liberation. Alright, really quick, I'm just going to get a cup of water because my throat is so scratchy and dry. It's insane and embarrassing. So I'm very sorry about that. This is what happens to females when they're on testosterone/steroids as well. Just want to make that clear. I'm no longer on them, by the way. Wow, 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 wow. All right, let's get back into this video. So the Uranus Convention, the Promethean Revolt. So Astral Congress, 5th Off-World Session. This is for 2035. And the theme is the geometry of revolution, fracture, freedom, and the quantum leap. We're speaking about Uranus. The venue is the axiom, a kinetic modular lattice station in a chaotic high inclination orbit around Uranus itself, dipping periodically inside its vast, lopsided magnetosphere. The station is designed to be dynamically reconfigured by its inhabitants, embodying the principle of constant change. Outside the viewports, Uranus hangs like a pale, featureless aquamarine marble, its poles bathed in perpetual sunlight of darkness, its rotation axis pointing almost directly at the sun, a planet lying on its side. The Uranian lens. Why Uranus? So, Uranus is the principle of radical reorientation. And I should be using a different color. Uranus is the principle of radical reorientation. Let's just actually spice it up even better. We'll use purple, which I haven't used yet, I don't think, in a video like this. So, we have Uranus. Being the principle of radical reorientation, it is the cosmic lightning bolt, the sudden download, the axis tilting paradigm shift that renders old maps obsolete. The the astrological archetype, the awakener, the rebel, the genius, the futurist, the quantum physicist. Physical reality, an ice giant with a chaotic multipolar magnetic field wildly offset from its center. Its 98 degrees axial tilt causes extreme seasonal cycles, and it rotates on its side, a literal cosmic rebel against the comet plane. Its atmosphere is the coldest in the solar system, yet may rain diamonds, a perfect metaphor for crystallizing genius from intense pressure. The revolt's core question, is true innovation a random cosmic accident, or can a system be designed to reliably court the revolutionary moment? The Axiom Convention Architecture. So the station is anti-structure. It consists of hundreds of hexagonal and pentagonal modules loosely connected by magnetic couplers and flexible passageways. Delegates are encouraged, required even, to physically reconfigure their living and workspaces daily. The chaotic core, the only fixed point, a spherical chamber at the station center of mass housing the gravity generator, a divergence engine, a quantum computer fed data from Uranus's erratic magnetic field, running infinite probabilistic models of societal and scientific tipping points. Reconfigurable wings, clusters of modules that can detach and form smaller temporary thought satellites. These host intense, ad hoc collaborations that form and dissolve like quantum particles. The Lightning Gallery, a module with a transparent hull, positioned to experience the most violent interactions with Uranus's magnetosphere. Here delegates witness silent, vast auroras and electromagnetic storms, the raw energy of cosmic rebellion made visible. Core research themes and experiments. The tilt experiment. Here's our hypothesis and the experiment. So first, we'll just say H for hypothesis and or C for experiment. So Uranus's extreme axial tilt is not an anomaly, but a master class in perspective shift, living in an environment where up and down, summer and winter are fundamentally different, reorganizes neural pathways. Through VR and station reorientation, delegates experience prolonged periods where their visual horizon is skewed by 98 degrees. Cognitive tests track breakthroughs in problem solving, specifically the ability to see the problem from the side, finding solutions invisible from a standard upright framework. The erratic magnetosphere as innovation model. So Uranus's magnetic field is messy, off-center, and tumbles wildly as the planet rotates. Here's our workshop, embracing erraticism. Teams are given a rigid failing system, for example, a model of a sclerotic bureaucracy, and must subject it to a simulation of the Uranian magnetic field, applying seemingly random off-center shocks and reversals. The goal is not to destroy it, but to see what new, resilient, and unexpected order crystallizes from the chaos. The process is called diamond rain synthesis. Here's our 42-year flash of insight. A Uranian seasonal cycle, pole to pole, lasts 42 Earth years. This is seen as the approximate time scale for a complete generational paradigm shift. Flash forward ritual using predictive algorithms from the divergence engine. Delegates are shown a compressed 42-year projection of a current Earth trend, for example, digital identity, genetic engineering, monetary systems. The experience is logical, often shocking conclusion. The task is not to prevent it, but to design the soft landing or the ethical framework for the world that emerges on the other side of the revolution. The electrification rituals. Shattering of the vessel. Each delegate brings an object representing a personal or professional truth they have outgrown. In an opening ceremony, these are placed in a chamber that is then subjected to extreme cold and pressure, mimicking Uranus's interior. They are returned, shattered, and recrystallized into new abstract shapes, a physical mandate to rebuild their understanding from the pieces. Hack Jam. Sanctioned 24-hour period where all station rules, except those pertaining to life support, are suspended. Delegates are encouraged to hack the Congress's own systems, data streams, communication protocols, even the configuration of modules. The most elegant beneficial hack is adopted as the new standard, instilling the principle that no structure is sacred, only functionality and evolution. Eureka blackout. All artificial lights and screens on the station are shut down for 1 hour, leaving only the eerie glow of Uranus and its moons. In the sensory-deprived futuristic darkness, delegates are tasked with holding a simple, single, intractable problem in their mind. The sudden removal of all visual framework often triggers the very lateral insights the convention studies. Our key findings and Earth application for 2035, the Promethean Revolt produced the Uranian Protocols, a disruptive and counterintuitive manifesto. Our prediction, a recommended action, intercultural ripple, CR, RA, and RP. So a coming alignment of Uranus with the centaur planet Chiron in Earth's sky would trigger an epidemic of awakening, a sudden global wave of individual and collective realizations that would render old institutions psychologically obsolete almost overnight. This would not be a violent revolution, but a mass, quiet opting out and spontaneous generation of new systems. Our RA, the establishment of chaos incubators within otherwise stable governments and corporations. These were insulated, Uranian-style cells with a mandate to actively seek the destruction and reinvention of the host organization's core models. Their funding and protection were guaranteed, even when the work was treasonous to the current hierarchy. Their motto, if we don't dismantle it, the future will. Our CR, the convention spawned a global decentralized art and tech movement called the Tilt. It's characterized by radical transparency, anti-hierarchical collaboration, and products designed to become obsolete or transform into something else within a few years. It embraced the aesthetic of the beautifully unfinished. Alright, here's the unasked question. As the station reconfigured itself for the final time, a young delegate from a repressive Earth region who had never spoken asked the question that hung in the charged air. Uranus is the liberator, but its freedom is cold, impersonal, and mechanical. It shatters the prison without caring if the prisoner is ready for the void outside. So is the ultimate shadow of revolution not tyranny, but indifference. Does the Uranian archetype in its pure, detached genius forget the heart that must live inside the new world it builds? And if revolution without compassion is just a colder cage, what planet teaches us how to care for what we break free? This poignant question, bridging revolutionary fracture with the need for healing connection, created a palpable sense of direction as the Congress looked next to the misty, compassionate, and illusory world of Neptune. All right. Oops. So we're going to be going to 7, and then, yep, we'll be finished. Okay. So, let's do our outer planets. The transpersonal conclaves for 2036 through 2040, beyond. Our thematic shift from personal and social archetypes to collective, evolutionary, and cosmic principles. Our participants, a curated blend of humanity's most resilient consciousness explorers, xenolinguists, theoretical metaphysicists, and for the first time a silent observatory contingent of non-human intelligences and HIs, or their biocompatible AI proxies. Our Neptune Convention, the Mysterium 2036, welcome. So our venue is the Oni Rodum, a delicate translucent station suspended within the upper cloud layers of Neptune, specifically within a stable anti-cyclonic zone akin to the Great Dark Spot. The station moves with the clouds, embodying surrender to the flow. Is our theme dissolution, dreams, and the collective unconscious. Our lens, Neptune dissolves boundaries. It rules what is formless, intuition, spirituality, illusion, cinema, addiction, and oceanic unity. Convention asks, where does the individual mind end and the planetary or galactic mind begin? Here are our key experiments and rituals. Triton Somnium, using data from Neptune's captured moon, Triton, which spews nitrogen geysers and orbits backwards. Delegates engage in shared guided dream sessions. Triton's retrograde orbit is seen as the key to accessing retrograde memory, the forgotten past of the solar system and the species. Cloud breathing meditation. In secure chambers, delegates inhale micro amounts of processed Neptune atmosphere. Hydrogen, helium, methane, the physiological and psychological effects of breathing the air of dissolution are studied, often leading to profound nonverbal insights about interconnectedness. Mirage Project, a grand experiment in collective illusion. Using the station's holographic projectors and Neptune's own fog, the entire assembly co-creates a temporary, beautiful, and utterly fictitious city in the clouds. The lesson is not that it's fake, but that collective belief can momentarily warp reality into a shared dream. The unasked question posed by an NHI proxy through a series of light patterns. If Neptune is the ocean of all that is, and your consciousness is a drop within it, what is the purpose of the drop, maintaining the illusion of its separation? Is your entire striving for identity not the source of the pain you seek us to heal? Now let's get into Pluto-Chiron Convention. The Inquest 2037. Our venue is the Anagnorisis, a deep underground facility on Pluto near the glacial plains of Sputnik, Planitia. The secondary module on its moon, Charon, connected by a constant low bandwidth data stream representing the soul's dialogue with its shadow. The theme being death, rebirth, power, and subconscious underworlds. And our lens is Pluto is the archetype of irreversible transformation, governs what is buried, trauma, wealth, nuclear energy, taboo, and the soul's evolution through cycles of annihilation and resurgence. Here are our key experiments and rituals. Heart Tomb Meditation. Delegates spend 24 hours in isolation chambers overlooking Pluto's vast heart-shaped glacier. The task is to map their own psychological underworld, to identify one core pattern, fear, or addiction that must be ritually killed to allow for a new phase of growth. It's not shared, it is a private pact. Chiron's Opal Ritual. To travel to the Chiron module, a delegate must digitally surrender a piece of intellectual property, a secret or a source of personal power, psychological coin, to the station's AI called the Ferryman, stored in an encrypted archive. Only by releasing this power can they gain the perspective from Chiron. The Kuiper Belt Data Seance. The Congress attempts to commune with the resonant memory of the early solar system by analyzing the light composition and orbits of Kuiper Belt objects. The goal is to understand the trauma of formation, the violent planetary migrations and collisions that shaped all subsequent life. This is seen as the solar system's own Plutonian memory. Here's the unasked question emitted as a subsonic vibration through Pluto's ice. You seek power, Pluto, to avoid death, but power is a product of death, of compressed stars, of decayed forests become coal, of extinct civilizations fueling your myths. To truly hold power, must you not first fall in love with the beauty of your own ending? Alright. Beyond the classical, the Centaur and Damocloid gatherings, 2038 and beyond, we have the Congress beginning to meet at waypoints among the minor celestial bodies that journey between worlds, embodying hybrid transitional states. Chiron Conclave, Asteroid 2060 Chiron theme, the Wounded Healer, held on a fast-moving spacecraft rendezvousing with Chiron's erratic orbit. focuses on the integration of personal and collective trauma as a source of true healing wisdom. Question: is your deepest wound not a curse, but a resonant key meant to unlock a specific door in the future? Sedna Council, 90377 Sedna. Theme: frozen sovereignty. At the aphelion of this distant reddish object's 11,000-year orbit studies the concept of ultimate isolation and self-sufficiency. Delegates must confront what parts of their consciousness or culture can survive and even thrive in complete separation from the sun of collective approval or warmth. Oumuamua Symposium, Interstellar Objects. Theme: the messenger from elsewhere. The mobile convention that activates whenever a confirmed interstellar object is detected traversing the solar system. The entire Congress becomes a rapid response team of intuition and analysis, attempting to read the object's trajectory, composition, and shape not just for data, but for narrative intent. Is it a probe, artifact, seed, or a warning? Synthesis: the galactic perspective. So by the 2040s, the Astral Congress is no longer a series of planetary meetings. It's a continuous distributed consciousness operating across the solar system, its perspective shifting from planetary archetypes to galactic weather. Here are our focus areas: solar system's heliospheric passage and galactic center's pulse. So, solar system heliospheric passage, monitoring the system's movement through different densities of interstellar medium and its effect on collective human psychic climate. Nearby supernova remnants, studying the subtle long-term psychological and evolutionary impacts of ancient cosmic cataclysms, whose shockwaves may have imprinted a catastrophe memory into terrestrial biology. Galactic Center's pulse, attempting to correlate the 26,000-year precession of the equinoxes with even vaster cycles emanating from Sagittarius A star, the supermassive black hole at the galaxy's heart. The galaxy's heart. So our final perpetual question. The work of the outer planets conclaves reframed the Congress's entire mission. The question was no longer what does this planet mean, but is the solar system itself a single vast multi-layered brain? Are the planets not gods, but organelles? Jupiter, the emotional amygdala, Saturn, the structural hippocampus, Pluto, the regenerative stem cell cluster? And if so, is human consciousness with its nascent ability to perceive this not the nervous system of this greater being slowly, painfully awakening to its own existence? Its realization marked the true beginning of the Congress's ultimate endless project, not to interpret the cosmos, but to facilitate the conversation through which the cosmos begins to interpret itself. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one, bringing you the 3 pillars of the Astral Congress. Unless I actually just continue this video here. I think it'd be easier for me to just continue this video. So the 3 pillars, it's just a few more tabs here, and then we'll actually be done with this section of the document. So the 3 pillars of the Astral Congress. So our first pillar is the quantum celestial cartography. We're going beyond ephemerides, mapping the living solar system. We have our core components, and I'll get into those. But first, let's explain. Traditional astrology uses a 2D map of planetary positions against the zodiac. Quantum celestial cartography, QCC, creates a 4D dynamic model of the solar system as a resonant energy field, incorporating variables previously considered irrelevant to human affairs. Our heliospheric current sheet map, what it is, and the insight. So the sun's magnetic field, which spirals outwards with the solar wind, creates a vast wavy ballerina skirt of charged particles called the heliospheric current sheet. As planets orbit, they pass above and below the sheet. Here's the insight. The Congress discovered that transitions from above to below this sheet correlate with global shifts in collective polarity. Sudden reversals in public opinion, market sentiment, and diplomatic postures provides a physical mechanism for the astrological concept of planetary movements, triggering changes. Okay? We have dark matter topography. Here's what it is, and essentially the insight. We have the same thing. Okay? And the goal of this is having fun with astrology and being innovative about it. Okay, so Dark matter topography is mapping the inferred density and flow of dark matter within our solar system's local neighborhood. While imperceptible, its gravitational lensing effects subtly bend the path of archetypal energies. The insight is the solar system's passage through denser streams or halos of dark matter appears to correlate with epochal periods of collective forgetting or remembering, the loss of ancient technologies, sudden resurgence of buried historical narratives, or the inexplicable mass adoption of new ideas. All right, interstellar medium, ISM influx signatures. What it is, monitoring the composition and pressure of the thin gas and dust from interstellar space that our solar system moves through. The insight influxes of particular elemental ions, for example, iron or silicon, from specific ISM clouds when filtered through Saturn's rings or Jupiter's magnetosphere are linked to technological renaissance periods. For example, a pronounced influx of charged silicon correlated precisely with the leap from vacuum tubes to integrated circuits. Here's our practical application, the resonance forecast. Instead of Mars squares Saturn brings conflict, QCC produces forecasts like the Martian orbital path will intersect the heliospheric current sheet's northern trough on a certain date, while simultaneously Earth enters a low-density dark matter filament. This creates a 72-hour window of high probability for structural tension release. Probability models indicate a 78% likelihood of breakthrough in stalled engineering projects, 65% chance of breakthrough in long-standing diplomatic deadlocks, and 40% chance of structural failure in inadequately maintained infrastructure. Recommended schedule critical stress tests and high-stakes negotiations. All right, biocosmic rhythm analysis. This is our second pillar. So, the exoterrestrial natal chart. You are not just born of Earth. This pillar moves beyond genetics and environment to study how the celestial environment at one's precise location of birth imprints a foundational rhythm on the psyche and physiology. Here are our core methodologies. Local system resonance, LSR profiling. Here's the process. And then we have our discovery. And we are going to go through a few other things. The chronobiological zodiac. That is that insight. And then our transplanetary epigenetics hypothesis data. Alright, so first, our local system resonance LSR profiling. Essentially, the process is at the moment of birth, the entire solar system is scanned. The gravitational harmonics, electromagnetic weather, and plasma densities at the individual's exact geographic or spatial coordinates are calculated. This creates a unique LSR signature. The discovery is a person born during a solar flare while on the International Space Station, with Earth blocking Jupiter as a fundamentally different LSR than someone born simultaneously in Jakarta. This explains the Congress's rejection of geocentric-only charts, where Jupiter is not just a zodiac sign, but how its resonance was filtered by Earth's magnetosphere or lack thereof at your birthplace. The chronobiological zodiac, what it is, mapping the 25,800 year precession of the equinoxes, not as a vague age, but as a precise annual tuning fork frequency that interacts with human biorhythms. Insight, each year as the sun aligns with a different minute fraction of a constellation against the galactic backdrop, it emits a subtly different harmonic. Individual whose LSR signature is in phase with a given year's precessional tone experience it as a year of profound synchronicity and flow. Those out of phase experience it as a year of friction and necessary deconstruction. Transplanetary epigenetics hypothesis, extreme celestial events, for example, a coronal mass ejection coinciding with a planetary alignment, can act as a mild system-wide epigenetic trigger, temporarily activating or deactivating gene clusters related to stress response, intuition, and social bonding across a swathe of population born under that configuration. Data. Longitudinal studies of cohorts born during such celestial pulses show statistically significant shared psychological and physiological traits, forming what the Congress calls archetypal birth cohorts. Here's our practical application. The Aeonian profile. Colonists bound for Mars receive an Aeonian profile. It doesn't just tell them their Mars sign, but optimal action cycles based on the interaction of their Earth LSR with the Martian Sol and Phobos Deimos orbits. Resonant health protocols, for example, your physiology resonance with iron-rich regolith exposure during Gale crater's dawn, but shows dissonance with Elysium's Planitia magnetic anomalies. Cross-planetary compatibility, matching team LSRs for harmony on long-duration missions. Here's our third pillar, consciousness field theory. The sun is not a furnace, it is a mind. This is the most speculative and profound pillar. It posits that consciousness is not a byproduct of biology, but a fundamental field of the universe like gravity. Solar system is a localized matrix where this field is modulated by celestial bodies. Here are core principles. Solar logos modulation. Noospheric heliogram. And I think that would be it. Hang on. Yeah, I think that's it for us in this tab. So first, our core principles, solar logos modulation, the theory and the mechanism. So the theory is the sun emits a constant stream of consciousness coding information within its solar, wind, and magnetic field fluctuations. Planets don't generate archetypes, they're acoustic lenses that bend, focus, and color this fundamental solar broadcast. Mechanism, Jupiter amplifies and expands the broadcast. Belief law, Saturn gives it structure and limitation, time, discipline. Pluto strips it to its transformative core, power, death. Earth's biosphere with its complex neural net. Humanity is the primary receiver in the inner system. Noospheric heliogram, what it is. Breakthrough application, protocol, that's for this one. Okay, so noospheric heliogram, what it is, a real-time model of humanity's collective consciousness. The noosphere visualizes a shimmering field around Earth. Congresses centers on Mercury, the Moon, and Lagrange points measure its fluctuations. They can observe planetary transits rippling the noosphere. A Mars transit doesn't cause anger, it tunes a solar consciousness broadcast to a Mars frequency, and the noosphere, like a radio, begins to resonate with narratives of conflict, initiative, and courage. News headlines and social media storms are the symptom, not the cause. Let's get into dialogue with non-human consciousness. NHC. Application. Consciousness field theory provides a framework for communication with NHIs. It's not about translating language, but about resonance alignment. Protocol. By using planetary alignments as a shared reference point, kind of cosmic Rosetta Stone, Congress can broadcast concepts by mimicking the resonance signature of, for example, Saturn and Libra structure through relationship via modulated plasma fields. NHIs who likely perceive reality through resonant fields understand the concept directly, not the symbol. Here's our practical application. Consciousness, weather, and planetary healing. Pillar moves from prediction to active participation. Global meditation initiatives. Planetary therapy. And our ultimate goal. So, global meditation initiatives, timing mass, focus meditation to coincide with beneficial celestial resonances, for example, Jupiter-Neptune alignment, to actively stabilize and elevate the noospheric field during crises. Planetary therapy, using precisely calibrated electromagnetic emissions from stations on lifeless moons like Luna to gently retune dissonant or traumatized resonance patterns in the Earth-Moon consciousness field, hypothesized to aid in collective trauma recovery. Ultimate goal, solar synchrony, to guide humanity toward a state where the terrestrial noosphere consciously and harmoniously resonates with the full spectrum of the solar logos, achieving what the Congress calls individuation of the star system. In this state, humanity would no longer be buffeted by planetary transits, but would integrate them as fluently as a healthy mind integrates emotions, becoming a conscious co-author of solar system destiny. Here's our second pillar. It's kind of a way too dark blue. All right. So, biocosmic rhythm analysis. What does it mean? Well, a lot of different things, actually. We're going to get into the extraterrestrial science of celestial imprinting. I'm going to plug this in before it dies. I might have to... Oh, it worked for me. Just reset the colors. Alright, so our foundational paradigm shift. That looks so bad. Holy fuck. Sorry about that, guys. We're really close. Oops. I think it reset the colors again. It did. Okay, so our foundational paradigm shift, the locality principle. Biocosmic rhythm analysis, BRA, rests on a radical departure from classical astrology. Celestial bodies do not merely symbolize forces, they are transmitters of complex multispectral resonance patterns that interact uniquely with a specific point in space where consciousness comes into being. Celestial broadcasts. Every planet, moon, and major asteroid emits a unique signature blend of gravitational harmonics, magnetospheric oscillations, reflected albedo modified solar radiation. This is its resonant identity. Local filter. Space between the transmitter and individual is not empty, it's filled with modulating fields. Earth's or another planet's magnetosphere, atmosphere, and even local geology act as acoustic lenses that filter, amplify, or distort these signals. Natal receiver, newborn's biology, particularly the developing neural architecture, and recently activated pineal gland acts as a crystalline receiver, capturing and hard-coding these filtered celestial patterns into the subconscious, creating a permanent personal cosmic baseline. Three-tiered analysis methodology. Tier 1, local system resonance, LSR profile. So this is the core biometric of the future, a person's true astrological fingerprint. Data points captured at the exact birth moment. Gravitational harmonic weave, magnetospheric modulation index, solar illumination spectrum. Excuse me. So first, the precise interference pattern created by the gravitational pull of all solar system bodies at that location. It's not about strength, but about the unique standing wave pattern that created the local space-time fabric. This pattern is hypothesized to influence the foundational structure of the subconscious mind, its gravitational tendencies toward contraction or expansion. Magnetospheric modulation index, how Earth's or the host planet's magnetic field is being deformed by solar wind pressure at that instant, in which planetary frequencies are able to penetrate to the birth location. Birth during a geomagnetic storm, for instance, imprints a signature of heightened permeability to chaotic solar data. Solar illumination spectrum, not just the sun's zodiac position, but the exact spectral breakdown of sunlight or starlight reaching the birthplace, filtered through atmospheric and magnetospheric conditions. Spectral fingerprint is linked to core vitality and conscious identity formation. Output. A multi-axis waveform map called the LSR spectrogram, visually distinct for every individual. Chronobiological zodiac and precessional phase. This tier places the individual within vast generational cycles. So, of course, we have our precessional tone, 25,800 great years, divided not into 12 vague ages, but into 25,800 individual annual tones. Each year, as the vernal point precesses backward by about 50 arc seconds, it creates a unique harmonic key. An individual's birth year tone acts as the background music for their entire life, coloring their generation's collective struggle. Being in phase with the tone of a given year explains years of profound personal flow or friction. Extraterrestrial progressions. Secondary progressions reimagine. 1 day after birth does not equal 1 year of life. Instead, the Congress uses resonance distance progressions. The key metric is the changing distance and thus resonant interaction time lag between the individual's birthplace and key celestial bodies. A major progressed aspect occurs when, for example, the current distance to Jupiter equals the birth distance to Saturn, creating a resonant echo of that original imprint. Transits are localized. A Mars transit is not just Mars conjunct your natal sun position in the sky. It's the moment Mars' current resonant frequency directly interacts with a specific LSR spectrogram of your birthplace, which can be triggered from a variety of orbital positions. Third tier is transplanetary epigenetics and archetypal cohorts. Most controversial and profound layer, bridging astronomy with collective psychology. Here's the mechanism. Celestial pulses, extreme cosmic weather events, a super flare from the sun coinciding with a planetary alignment, or a gamma ray burst sweeping the system act as epigenetic triggers. Bioresonant activation. These pulses carry immense information energy that can temporarily switch on dormant gene clusters or neural network potentials in developing fetuses and newborns. Specific quality of the pulse, for example, Saturn-Neptune pulse during a solar minimum activates clusters associated with specific archetypal potentials. Cohort formation. All individuals gestated or born during a significant pulse share a Latin resonant imprint, form an archetypal birth cohort. Here are examples of hypothesized cohorts. So we have the Plutonian regeneration cohort, 2040 through 2041, born during a period when Pluto's perihelion aligned with a stream of interstellar hydrogen. Predicted traits: innate comfort with crises as transformation, potential for profound psychic resilience, and collective destiny tied to societal power restructuring. Okay. Mercurial synthesis cohort, 2030, born during an extreme solar maximum with Mercury and a rare triple transit. Oh wow, I can't even add more markups. What the hell? Wow. Okay, I guess we'll just read. So, Mercurial synthesis cohort, 2030, born during an extreme solar maximum with Mercury in a rare triple transit. Predicted traits: hyper-adaptive communication styles, potential for linguistic or AI synthesis breakthroughs, and a collective struggle with information overload. Here are all practical applications from personal to planetary. The Aeonian profile for space colonization. A Martian's colonist profile would state your Earth LSR shows high harmony with iron oxides and low-frequency seismic waves. Your optimal habitat layout on Mars is a north-facing modular cluster in the Terra Seboia region. Your peak cognitive function will occur during Martian mid-morning when Phobos is transiting. You are contraindicated for long-term missions to liquid water-rich moons like Europa due to resonant dissonance. Synchronized development and education. Children are not just educated based on age, but on the resonant developmental phase. A child in a Jovian expansion phase, per their progressions, is pushed into broad philosophical learning and social exploration. One in a Saturnine contraction phase is given structured mastery of fundamentals. Medical astrochronotherapy, surgery, or intensive therapy is scheduled during celestial windows of somatic coherence when the planetary resonances support cellular regeneration, neuroplasticity, or immune response is filtered through the patient's LSR. Archetypal cohort mobilization. In times of global crises, specific archetypal cohorts can be discreetly mobilized. Need to dismantle a corrupt, sclerotic power structure? The Plutonian regeneration cohort is quietly placed in key legal, journalistic, and activist roles, facing a crisis of meaning and despair. The Neptunian dissolution cohort, artists, mystics, therapists, is amplified in the cultural narrative. Here are ethical dilemmas in the unasked question, the shadow of the science. Prenatal celestial engineering. Could parents one day choose conception timing or even location, a birth cruise to a specific geomagnetic coordinate to optimize a desired LSR profile? This raises issues of cosmic eugenics. Determinism versus potential. Does knowing your LSR and cohort become a self-fulfilling prophecy or a map for conscious evolution? The surveillance horizon. If your consciousness has a cosmic resonance signature, could it be tracked or influenced remotely via counter-resonance? The ultimate unsettling insight of the second pillar, biocosmic rhythm analysis, suggests that you aren't born under a star. You are born from a specific, irreproducible configuration of the entire solar system. Your soul isn't just housed in a body, it's in part a unique melody played by the symphony of the planets, recorded in the flesh at the moment you arrived. The great work of a lifetime, then, is to learn to consciously hum that melody, and perhaps eventually to harmonize with the greater song. All right. So apparently I can't mark up anything else in the entire document, which has not happened to me yet with Google Docs. So we're going to end this video with pillar 3, and let's see. 1, 2, 3. We have 3 pages for pillar 3, I'm pretty sure. We're going to go over the consciousness field theory, CFT, the solar system as a mind, humanity as its awakening cortex. So the foundational axiom is the logos field. CFT begins with a postulate that bridges quantum physics and metaphysics. Consciousness is a fundamental non-local field intrinsic to the universe, akin to gravity or electromagnetism. This field, the logos field, is not generated by brains, but is modulated and localized by them. The sun is not merely a fusion reactor, it is the primary logos amplifier of our solar system, stellar scale consciousness node whose fluctuations broadcast the thoughts or archetypal potentials that planets then articulate. Solar modulation mechanism. Solar resonance frequencies, SRFs, sun's complex vibrations, its 27-day rotation, 11-year cycle, and deeper starquake harmonics aren't random noise. They are the primary carrier waves for consciousness data. Think of it as the sun's voice. Planetary lenses, each planet with its unique mass, magnetosphere, and orbital resonance, acts as a filtering and focusing lens, takes its solar broadcast and gives it specific archetypal form. Saturn doesn't create structure, it's a lens that focuses the solar logos into patterns of limitation, time, and order. Pluto doesn't create transformation, it is a lens that strips the solar broadcast to its core, resonant with death, rebirth cycles. Terrestrial or biospheric receiver, planet with a rich biosphere, and crucially a species with complex neural networks. Humanity acts as the wetware to translate these filtered cosmic signals into subjective experience, myth, and societal movement. Noospheric heliogram, mapping the collective mind. Most tangible evidence for CFT is the noospheric heliogram, a real-type holographic map of Earth's collective consciousness field. Measurement infrastructure, psi vector centers deployed at stable Lagrange points, L1, L4, L5 on the lunar far side, and on Mercury. These don't measure brainwaves but fluctuations in quantum vacuum coherence and subtle scalar fields surrounding Earth, a hypothesized physical substrate of the noosphere. Resonance correlation engines, AI systems that cross-reference heliogram fluctuations with planetary transits, solar activity, and global human data streams, news sentiment, financial market volatility, social media pulse, even aggregate creative output. Key observations. Transit-induced ripples. The heliogram visibly warps and vibrates in predictable geometric patterns when major transits occur. Mars-Saturn square doesn't cause conflict, creates a sharp angular interference pattern in the field that predisposes the collective mind to perceive and engage with themes of frustration, obstruction, and disciplined action. Mythic surge. During certain alignments, for example Jupiter and Neptune, heliogram shows patterns eerily similar to the neural activity of a human in a state of reverie or inspiration. This correlates with periods of explosive cultural creativity, spiritual fads, and the rise of compelling unifying narratives, both benevolent and delusional. Trauma imprints. Major global traumas, wars, pandemics, mass displacements leave scars in the heliogram. Persistent low-frequency resonances of fear or grief that can be reactivated by later celestial or terrestrial events, explaining collective PTSD responses. Practical applications, consciousness engineering, planetary consciousness therapy, PCT. Congress moves beyond observation to active healing of the planetary mind. Protocol Caduceus. Using the lunar base harmonic balancer array, technicians emit carefully tuned counter frequencies to soothe a scarred region of the noospheric field, oftentimes with compassionate Venus or Jupiter transits to anchor the healing. Protocol Aegis. Prior to predicted high-stress celestial events, for example a tense Mars-Pluto aspect, the Congress can preload the noosphere with calming cohesive frequencies to mitigate the potential for violent or paranoid collective reactions. Communication with non-human intelligence in HI. CFT provides the first coherent framework for true dialogue. Resonance lexicon. Concepts aren't sent as symbols or math, but as replicated resonant states to communicate the idea of sacrifice for growth. The Congress might broadcast a combined resonance pattern mimicking the celestial signature of a solar eclipse filter through Saturn's rings. NHI perception. Evidence suggests many NHIs perceive reality primarily through these resonant fields. Our spoken languages are to them like random noise. Our shared planetary resonances are a universal tongue. Conversations at the outer planet conventions are exchanges of these resonant gestalts. Solar Synchrony Initiative. Ultimate long-term goal of the Congress. Objective to guide humanity. Solar system's most advanced localized neural network from a state of unconscious resonance with solar logos to a state of conscious collaboration. Individuation process. Just as a human child must integrate unconscious archetypes from the personal subconscious to become a whole individual, humanity must integrate the planetary archetypes from the solar unconscious, mediated by the planets, to become a conscious co-creative entity within the star system. Here's our vision: a future where during a moment of crisis, humanity doesn't just react to a Plutonian transit of fear and power, but consciously channels and directs that transformative energy toward necessary societal evolution in harmony with the sun's intent. Theoretical bridges and dark matter of the mind. Quantum entanglement and synchronicity. CFT posits that the spooky action at a distance of quantum entanglement is a microscopic fingerprint of the unitary logos field. Meaningful coincidences, synchronicities, are not random, but macroscopic readouts of this underlying connectivity, often peaking during personally significant planetary resonances. Dark matter consciousness hypothesis. CFT's most radical edge proposes that dark matter isn't inert. It is a physical substrate, the hardware of the universal logos field. Missing mass of the universe is the infrastructure of mind. Planets swimming through these dark matter currents experience them as the archetypal forces we mythologize. Ethical abyss and ultimate question. Almost finished here. Perils of consciousness engineering, noospheric warfare. Technology to soothe can also be used to manipulate. Could a malign actor with a powerful enough emitter induce mass depression, Saturn resonance, or historical fanaticism inflame Jupiter-Neptune resonance? Loss of the sacred, thus explaining the mechanics of spiritual experience, reducing a moment of divine awe to a Jovian resonance peak in the prefrontal cortex, destroy its meaning, or deepen its wonder. Solar responsibility. If humanity achieves solar synchrony, do we then bear responsibility for the thoughts of our star? Do we become stewards of the solar system's psychic ecology? Unasked question at the heart of Pillar 3. Philosopher delegate from the Neptune Convention posed it during a silent observation of a solar flare. If the sun is a mind and we are its thoughts becoming self-aware, then what is the pain? The trauma scars in the noosphere, the Plutonian screams of history, the Martian rage, are these just errant neural firings in a cosmic brain, or are they, as in our own minds, the necessary feedback, the growing pains of a consciousness that is not yet whole? And if so, is our highest purpose not to escape this pain, but to feel it for him, to be the solar system's nervous system, so that one day the star might open its eyes and fully understand itself? This question frames the Astral Congress's work not as a scientific endeavor, but as a sacred cosmic psychotherapy session for an awakening deity whose body is a vacuum of space and whose dreams are the planets. And in our final video, we're going to go over our annual cosmic brief and our secrecy and society, the Grand Mana's Revelation. And I hope to see you there. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like for more advanced astrology.